Welcome to the third part of my series on polygamy versus MGTOW. Let's do a quick recap so as to understand better where my argument is going. Let's see how single motherhood is becoming a pariah on our society. We know that in today's world, marriage equals a huge risk for men. With biased family courts that profit from family breakups through divorce, we are seeing too much of the population represented by children being raised by single mothers without the influence they need from a father. And although 70% of divorces are instigated by women, women are rewarded custody of their children over 80% of the time. Now, these statistics alone should highlight enough the reason why single motherhood dominates today. But there are other factors involved, as I mentioned in the previous videos of this series. Consider work-related deaths. According to one source, women incurred less than 1/10 of the job-related fatal injuries and illnesses that required time off to recuperate between 1992 and 1996. During this time, women accounted for just under 50% of the nation's workforce. Men have always had their lives cut short by doing dangerous jobs that often benefited others before it benefited themselves. This is a fact that I can safely assume has continued since the dawn of fire. Women having the role of cooking with that fire, while men are the ones who actually provided it. And finally, to recap my last videos, I also mentioned war, but it is hardly necessary to repeat the atrocities of war and its major casualties being men. The point is that throughout history, you didn't need huge numbers of divorces happening by unsatisfied women to create so many single mothers. You just needed men doing all the dirty work that women will not do. Today, it is even worse for men. Not only do they have to fear for their lives because of dangerous work and war, but now they have to contend with so-called liberated women who feel they can dismiss a marriage solely on the basis that they are unsatisfied, and that their marriage will dissolve because the laws are supporting the women, and that she raised the children on her own without a father, while the man has to continue to support her habits of disingenuous behavior simply because she is an empowered woman. In other words, for centuries, men have had to face an uphill battle in order to be an influence on the children that they have fathered. Understanding how children raised by single mothers is doing harm to our society by creating more juvenile offenders, this including murderers and rapists, as I touched on in my previous videos. Perhaps you can start to see where I am going with my argument for polygamy. So now maybe we should try to explore the history of polygamy. Polygamy has existed in numerous cultures throughout the history of man and society, though polygyny was always the mainstay. In other words, a man with multiple wives is something that has been practiced from time immemorial in hundreds of different cultures. It is only today that it seems to be shunned, especially by modern Western society. The only exception I can think of may be the Mormons in North America. But even the modern Mormons have all but completely left this practice behind. The question then is, Why has polygamy, or polygyny, been such a common practice through the ages, but now it is considered barbaric or even detrimental to a sound society? I believe polygamy was considered and observed as being beneficial to a community and its worth in the past. I don't think we abandoned polygamy out of self-preservation. I think we allowed it to distance itself from us when we allowed the state or heads of said state to dictate our own personal lives. Let's consider that in the past, life expectancy was much shorter. Wars still raged. Basic rituals of providing for living was much more dangerous. And because men did all of these things, they, as today, had shorter lifespans. Even in the last 100 years alone, within the United States, though life expectancy on a whole has increased, men have consistently died on average 5 to 7 years earlier than women. However, in the past, with men, in brevity, always dying earlier, this obviously meant that many women were left behind to fend for themselves, almost always with a child in tow. And if we consider the modern statistics of children being raised by a single mother alone, accounting for a huge increase in child delinquency, then maybe we can see how polygamy was considered a viable option in the past.